everyone, welcome back to Jibber Jabber with Jarvis. This week's guest is Unsummoned Skull or Coach J-Ro. You might know him underneath both names. So, Coach, introduce yourself, tell everyone about yourself and where they can find you.
I'm Coach J-Ro, the Unsummoned Skull. I certainly like to bounce things, and you can find me as Unsummoned Skull in most places. I have the Quote of Arms podcast, which is about creature types. In terms of building and brewing, I have a blog that I call the Red Eye Deck Guide. Yeah, thank you, JJ. So I have a blog called the Red Eye Deck Guide, which is how to build decks relatively quickly and using synergy and on a budget. So hopefully that'll be pretty cool.
Awesome.
I also write for EDHREC and Commander's Herald. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. Hey, writing is something that's fantastic to do. I always hate doing it, so I never do. But thank you for joining me. In the description of the video, because yes, this is going up on YouTube as well, will be all of Coach J-Ro's links. But if you haven't been here before, how we do this is we pick a random commander using EDHREC. Could go and spin up to 3 times, but if you choose to respin, you lose the previous commander you had. Then we go and we find out whether or not there's a budget. But the spin looks a little bit different. Yo, Damien, how you doing? Uh, we are doing the budget with. Oh, and thank you so much for the raid. I really appreciate it. It means the most to me.
Nice. Hopefully I don't disappoint them.
I don't think you will.
That's
So,
good.
just for Damien and his crew coming in, this is my weekly deck building show. We have Coach J-Ro Unsummoned Skull with me, and we're building a commander deck and getting to find out more about Coach as well when we do it. As you know, before I had 2 wheels to spin, but one of them was kind of like a coin flip. So I was like, oh, let me just add all the no budgets so they equal out to the number of budget options I have. So we could either build a deck on no budget, or it could be a budget anywhere from $50 to $200. And finally, we'll build it using Moxfield. So let's see what our
Wheel of Morality. Turn, turn, turn. Tell us the lesson that we must learn.
that $50 is still too high of a budget for what you're gonna, the pain you're gonna put on me. So the first commander we have is Zira the Golden Sting. 1 insect assassin with flying and haste. That whenever it attacks, you put an egg counter on another target creature without an egg counter. And when that dies, it has an egg counter on it. You draw a card and get a 1/1 black insect creature token with flying.
Interestingly, I have the original Zero built, but I'm not a big fan of the new one. I'd rather respin.
Respin, okay. Well, Damien, thank you for sharing them with me. Hopefully, they go and get to see a cool deck being built.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and something to mention before we go any further, I know Zira is a cheap card, but we might get an expensive commander. The commander does not count against the budget
That's good.
since you don't have the choice of a commander.
Nice. There's actually a format called Bubblegum Magic where everything besides the commander has to be 25 cents or less.
Okay, that'd be fun. Don't know if I'd do it though, but it'd be fun. Next commander, Meriadoc Randy Buck. 1 green, 2/2, halfling citizen. That whenever one or more halflings you control attack a player, you get a food.
Interesting typo. But I don't really know a lot about halflings, and um, I mean, I do have a podcast that's about stuff like that. I don't know how much they tend to run,
Well, the thing with
or how many there
halflings,
are.
pretty much all the halflings are Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Oh, and changelings, I think, but yeah.
Yeah, but otherwise, like they're pretty much all Lord of the Rings.
hmm And it's stuck in one color.
Yep.
Not sure I'm too big a fan of that. It is attacking, which is interesting. But I think so. If I go for the third one, I have to take whatever it is, right?
Yes.
Okay. Um. Yeah, I'll go for the third one.
Thank God.
There are fewer than 20 halflings, so that's not going to happen.
Yo, Antonio, I am doing well. How are you doing? Final one, we get a Selesnya commander. Maja,
Oh, nice. I
Bretagard
built Maja
Protector.
before. I love Maja.
Maja, I always pronounce Maja. You're probably right on pronunciation because I'm awful on those things. Human warrior.
I use the Romanian pronunciation.
Okay. But
So I usually wind up calling it Sora Maya, which means my sister.
oh, okay.
Fratelli Meu is my brother, and Sora Maya is my sister.
See, getting a language lesson.
Yeah. Well, my family's Eastern European, so it helps.
Definitely. Um,
And given that Kaldheim is Scandinavian technically, but
yep,
some of it is part of the Eastern Europe as well. Old world, I guess you could say.
definitely, and all those countries sticking together.
Yep.
Uh,
So I'm okay with Sora Maya as long as it's okay that I built it before.
oh, it's fine that you built it before
Okay.
because you're
So
probably not going to build it the same way.
yeah, it was a while ago. What I did with it last time was I used a lot of rampant growth and rampant growth and the 4 mana version of that the search for 2 basics, because there's a
Yes,
lot of those functional reprints out there, and so it can pretty easily be built on a budget because you have a token producer in the command zone, and then you just use you do that and about like somewhere between 10 and 20 overruns, and you don't really need much else in a deck.
that doesn't surprise me. But now we are going to go and spin to see what the budget is.
Mm-hmm.
What do we get? And there is no budget.
Okay.
So you get to
I'll
build
try to take it in
however
a
you
different
want.
direction then.
So where do you want to start with building the deck?
So, if I was going to build it for on a budget, I would use those ramping growths and those 2 and 4 mana ramp spells that also make it easier to recast the commander if it dies. Um, but if it's not on a budget, it might be cool to look into some of the extra land spells.
Okay. Antonio,
So,
thank you so much for the gifted sub to Scruffy. I really appreciate it. It means a ton to me. It helps out a lot. So which extra land cards would you like?
so let me look.
And thank you for resubscribing yourself. You're on a 3 month streak there. Are you thinking like the extra land spells, like the Explorer extra land spell, or are you thinking more like
So
Azusa?
both.
Both.
Basically anything that allows you to play extra lands.
So there's
So
this.
essentially, the synergy that I would be looking to work together with regards to green and white would be white's land tax style effects that search up a bunch of lands, and green's extra land drops. So land tax plus Azusa sounds like a pretty powerful combination. I'm searching up 3 lands a turn, and then I can play 3 lands a turn.
So land tax always worries me in green decks, just because a lot of times by the third turn, second or third turn it's on there, you probably have already outramped them. And now, Antonio, thank you so much for the other gifted sub to Uwu Dave. Dave, you're stuck here now. But we do have land tax in here.
So I'm looking for that as a core. That doesn't mean that there's nothing else that I'm doing. Um, so essentially the synergies that I would be looking to build around are land tax effects, extra land effects, and then possibly either bouncing land effects or for getting it some interesting ground, especially without a budget, animating lands.
Okay. So which ones do you want to look up first?
So I was looking up extra land stuff
Okay.
first.
Let's do it this way. These additional lands.
Yep, not extra additional.
There we go.
Yep. So Elysian Grove.
Yes. Sexy Dryad.
Case of the Locked Hothouse is a new one.
It is, and it actually is a lot of fun because it will let you go and play them off the top of your library.
Mm-hmm. There's Exploration.
I actually just got. They're not showing exploration up here, so I'll have to go and look at that separately.
Rites of Flourishing is always a fun one,
So those,
just in terms of letting everybody do nutty stuff.
you're nicer than I am.
I like chaos. Gear per Orrery is another one that lets everybody in on the chaos.
So, in these extra lands that I have pulled up, we have Case of the Locked Lighthouse. We do have a Zeus's Many Journeys, which on the first step it lets you play an extra land, but not on the other steps.
There is the question. So one of the ones that questionable would be Storm Cauldron.
Okay. We also have Oracle Modiah.
Yeah, Oracle probably goes in also just because the Oracle is Oracle.
So I'm gonna go back. Oh, and do you want Ancient Green Warden? It's Panharmonicon for landfall.
Not sure about that right now.
Okay. Just because we were on the, it was how I searched was on there. So
Yep.
exploration. How is exploration worded? Because I had additional land. Why didn't you show up when I searched for additional land?
Good for me.
Let me try this again. Yeah. Okay, now this is showing up a completely. Maybe I made a typo or something. Okay, here we go.
Storm Cauldron's the question.
A storm
Just how mean do we
cauldron.
want to be?
Storm cauldron is right here. So you get the benefit from it more than anyone else.
Oh yeah, and of course because we're built around it.
Yeah.
Question is Storm. So do we consider Storm Cauldron to be mass land destruction?
I don't. But you also have to, when you're talking about something like this at a philosophy point like this, when it comes to stacks like effects, because I don't even really consider this stacks, even though a lot of other people would. I am okay with them as long as you are making them asymmetrical and you're not just slowing down the game. You are providing a benefit to yourself every time you're doing this.
Yeah. And I think that as long as you put in other effects like Rites of Flourishing, it doesn't shut the game down. It opens up decision trees.
Yes. So we could add
It
it if you
also
decide
allows us to
later.
get extra value out of things like land tax and like burgeoning should be in there, I think.
Yeah, and it's also one of these things that if you decide later on you want to cut it, you could always cut it.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'd rather add in. Burgeoning's not here, but I can always find burgeoning. What other ones do we have here that would make sense?
I should probably be looking at your shared screen. I'm looking at my own. Okay.
That's why you're seeing things I'm not seeing.
Yeah. Sorry. Um.
You could be really nice and play gear per orrery. I don't recommend it.
I that was one that I was saying. I do recommend it.
Okay, I'll put it
I
in there.
like your brewery.
See, I am not a nice person when it comes to playing the game. I very much play in the mindset of I play to win. I play to have a good time, but I play to win. And I play a lot of decks that concentrate on resource denial, so I don't like helping my opponents.
Interestingly enough, I win a decent amount, somewhat disproportionate amount, but I yeah, I mean, top of my chest or something, but not my chest. Nah, but I do win a decent amount, and I enjoy uh sharing a resource, but using it better than anyone else.
And see, that's why if someone plays like um a Rate of Flourishing effect, or a Howling Mine effect, whoever played that effect, I have to remove them from the game because no one shares resources unless they're planning on using them better. And
I
I
want to
work,
see everyone do a nutty thing.
but I work
That's
so hard
part
to
of
take
me
all
as a
those
host.
resources away.
Mhm.
I work so hard to take those resources away, and you just freely give them back.
So, for example, I have a Clothis Enchantress deck that multiplies everybody's mana and multiplies everyone's damage because my goal with that deck is I want to see how gigantic a fireball I can make.
Okay.
Uh, so I give everybody mana, but I don't give them cards. The Enchantress effects are my card draw that I don't share. So everybody gets mana. I'm the only one that gets cards off of me making these enchantments, so I'm able to avoid running out of things to do. I'm
Oh,
okay with giving everybody tons of mana because they have a finite number of things to do. My probably my signature deck is Simic Burn, and that's one where I give everybody cards, but then um, I give everybody lots of cards, and then I evacuation your board, so you wind up in the position of either overextending into an evacuation or holding the cards in hand just to get Stormseekered.
see, and those effects, um, those types of effects as well, like Enchantress effects. Enchantress decks in general, I will not let go unchecked because I play Demir. Well, a lot of my decks are Demir based.
Mm-hmm.
Notoriously awful at getting rid of enchantments.
Yeah.
And then
Well, I mean, just bounce all non-land permanents.
Simic's just mean.
Uh,
Um,
one of my one of my Dimir decks is Lazav, and it bounces all non-land permanents, and then turns Lazav into a Viseling, and then burns you.
okay, that sounds like fun. Now
Mhm.
going back to the deck. Sorry, my wife was the lovely Amazer Bixru in chat, who looks that wanted me to look at our daughter in napping, well, actually sleeping,
Ah,
but she, instead of going to her bed to sleep, she fell asleep in her rocking chair. And we're not talking
ah.
like a nice cushy rocking chair, we're talking about a wooden rocking chair.
I mean, I fall asleep at my desk a lot.
But your chair's probably more comfortable.
Uh, yeah, probably.
So did you want to add Wayward Swordtooth?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Now, one other uh, card that was recommended by JJ that you're probably going to get to are Kalemancer's map.
Yeah, that's pretty much it's the overcosted but white version of burgeoning.
Well, it's the one oh yeah, I never got Burgeoning in here because it didn't show up. That Roots Flourishing. So, going back to your Magic journey, I know you and I talked a little bit before stream,
Mhm.
but when tell everyone when did you start playing Magic and what brought you into playing Magic? What made you start playing?
So it's kind of a weird time to start playing, but I started playing Magic during Champions of Kamigawa. Because I was in high school, and my high school history teacher, and I happen to be a history teacher now, but my high school history teacher ran a games club, and he was a really cool person. I wanted to get to know him better. I wanted to know what they were doing in the games club, so I learned how to play. I got a booster pack of champions, not having any idea what was happening, and I got a foil Kuro Pit Lord. It had a so the first booster pack had a foil Kuro Pit Lord. It had a Sensei's Divining Top.
Okay.
Of course, I thought the Kuro Pit Lord was easily the most valuable card in the pack. I had no idea what Sensei's Top was.
Nice. It's funny that
Um,
you said in
yeah.
high school, so I had to go and look to see how when Champions of Kamigawa came out because I knew we were around the same age. I'm like, oh yeah, that was my senior year of high school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that for me was the Champions coming out. I think was my
It's
sophomore or
October
freshman year.
2004.
October 2004 would have been my freshman year.
Okay. See, still the old guy.
Yeah, you're about at the same age as my sister.
But yeah, and
Hmm.
Divining Top, it's a card that I'm glad that it saw as many reprints as it did because it's a card that for a long time I put in every single one of my commander decks.
Mm-hmm.
There's a time when remember when Dividing Top was like $40 or $50 before it got the reprints, and now you can get it for like 15 or 20. Uh,
Yeah, and there's also a time when it was ubiquitous.
yeah,
And
I had like
actually,
5 of them.
oh, nice.
Not because I had 5 of them from opening them back in Champions of Kamigawa. I had 5 of them because I bought them for every deck.
Yeah, at a time it was ubiquitous. It was as ubiquitous as like Soul Ring is now.
And now I only have
Um,
top in one deck. Two decks. Two
mhm.
decks.
I think I have top in one deck that's not active right now. But I remember there was a time when, like in the early days of Commander, we would have like a mini game of can someone actually destroy a top? Like the whole table would start cheering if someone actually like crows and gripped a top or something.
Stupid K grip. Hurting my tops. So going back to the deck, we have about 12. We have actually 14 cards in here now, so we're making good
Mhm.
progress. Um,
Yep.
where do you
So
want
the
to?
other part of the ramp package is to search out lands. So Tithe would go in. Like the OG Tithe,
Yep,
even though that's expensive, but we don't have a budget, so what do we care?
money doesn't mean a thing.
So yeah, Tithe would go in. There's a couple of other ones I'm thinking. You put in Knight of the White Orchid.
Knight of the White Orchid,
Gift of the States is what I was thinking of.
Gift of the States, and Knight of the White Orchid.
Hmm.
So both of these are ones that you just have to play them when your opponent has more lands than you, or an opponent. And since everyone wants to play green,
Hmm. And we do some things where we give lands to other people, and we can control our land count with things like Storm Cauldron.
I never,
Deep Gnome Terramancer is another one
I
that
never,
works with what we're doing.
I never added Storm Cauldron. Oh yeah, I did. Never mind. I just missed it. Deep Gnome Terramancer. This is a card that I remember when it first came out. Everyone was like, this card is gonna be awesome. It's gonna be better than everything, and then it doesn't see play really at all.
Yeah, you kind of have to build around it a little bit. But this is one where we're going to be using effects like that a lot.
So I know you were going and looking for these style effects, like the Explorer, Gift of Estates, Exploration style effects. Did you still want to run the spell-based land ramp, like the 3 visits in Nature's Lore?
I'm not sure because we're running this more as or not as much as a spell slinger deck, more as a landfall deck.
Yeah, and the only reason why I mentioned those two specifically is because they're only 2 mana and they get any forest instead of doing like a cultivate or a Kadama's Reach where you get 3 mana to only hit 1 land drop. And they come in untapped, so you can chain together spells.
Um, yeah, given where we are in terms of budget, yeah, we can probably put in some of put in 3 visits, put in Nature's Lore, but especially the lower end because right now we haven't even talked about Soul Ring, and I don't think we need it. I don't think we want it.
And that's something I am a big fan of. Uh, I have multiple decks without Soul Ring, but as everyone knows, I do have hatred for green. But I do have a mono green deck, and it's where all my green cards go to die, and it's a deck I play when I don't want to think.
Hmm.
Uh, I purposely did not put any artifact ramp in that deck except for one artifact card, and it's the party tree. Other than that, there's no other single artifact in the card unless it was a creature artifact. And the creature artifact I know that's in there's like Steel Colossus, but we don't have to talk about it.
It's okay. I like playing different colors and using them for different things, especially things other than what the color is usually used for. So I like rampant growth effects because I like being able to play a spell slinger deck in green. To
Well, that's
me, rampant growth is almost indistinguishable from, say, Rite of Flame.
yep. Well, that's why I also play. I do have a monocolored deck of every color. The only one that isn't truly monocolor is my mono white deck, and
Mhm.
that's because it is Rigo Streetwise Mentor, and I play one other hybrid spell in there other than Rigo. But it's
Mhm.
but it's all white lands otherwise. Because where else am I going to put Fracturing Gust?
Yeah, I've been wanting to find a place for that one for a while, but it just I can't ever seem to find a spot for it.
It's
I will say I don't play a ton of green white.
I don't have any green white decks.
I have Hamza Elephants. I made a Saga deck, and recently I made a Tristani Three Voices lure deck.
Okay.
And that's about it in terms of Selesnya. And when I build the decks, they don't usually stay around that long in Selesnya because I just the color combination just doesn't work well for me because a lot of it is creature based. There's a lot of redundancy in the commander department.
So I've gotten attacked for saying this in the past. Selesnya is mono green with a better removal package.
um, hmm.
Even this deck, we're building it very mono green like.
uh, yeah, this is using a little bit of what white does with regards to land search and putting it to hand, but I guess you could say that's not that different from like green has the pay a green, put a land in your hand.
Yep.
This
So
is going a little bit more lands in your hand, but not really that different.
that's I brought that up to Lachlan on Monday, and they were like, I can't believe you said that.
Well, I can see it. There's different things that I like or dislike about green and white. I do think that it has I think it has a better creature removal package. I don't think it is a better universal removal package, and I actually think green has better like has better universal removal
Well,
or
no,
better efficiency based removal.
green can only really remove artifacts and enchantments, other than unless you're counting bite and bite spells. It doesn't have hard removal otherwise. Where white has
Mm.
hard removal for every permanent type.
White usually gives something back in exchange for the removal, or it's inefficient.
But a lot of times, what it's giving back is very negligible. Like Stroke of Midnight, for instance, it's giving back what that's a 1/1 mouse,
Mm-hmm.
or even the 3/3 body off of Generous Gift.
Well, yeah, giving the elephant body, yeah.
Yep.
Uh,
Where green's artifact and enchantment removal is very good, but you do have that wonderful disenchant in white. But unless you have a fight or a bite spell, it's not touching creatures.
to me, green and white fight for a lot of the same uh, things, and white kind of is basically it's a worse green
Yeah.
in a lot of cases. But there are some things that white does that
Well,
green doesn't.
no, it's not a worse green because white's playable.
Hmm?
I just sorry, my hatred for green's showing up again. it,
Okay.
it pops up every time that I talk about green cards.
Mhm. And I, if anything, I kind of favor white more than I should, even though Temur are my main
Well,
colors.
that was actually going to go and be my next question. We're talking a lot about colors. What's your favorite color combination?
So I dislike white and black. If I'm going to colors that are like earthbending to Aang, white or Jarvis to me. It's not that I necessarily dislike them, although I kind of do. It's that they are antithetical to me because I don't like rules and authority, and white is about rules and authority, and black is about power, which leads to asserting rules and authority and saying this is good, this is evil. I'm not a fan of either of those concepts, especially in a world that has magic.
Okay, and it's a great way that is really showcasing your personality because a lot of the reasons why you actually just said that you don't like those colors are a lot of the reasons why the colors like I'm Esper is my favorite place to play. Definitely leaning more to the Demir than Esper than not necessarily Esper, but yeah, Esper is my favorite three color combination. And a lot of it is I like the control, but that's because I'm a control freak. Not to the point where I have to control
Mm-hmm.
what everyone does, but I have to be in control of what I do at all times. So I want to control the
Mm-hmm.
game that I'm part of at all times. And that's kind of like I'm making the rules when I'm playing the game because I'm telling you what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And it's the complete opposite of how you want to play.
It's the complete opposite of how I mean, as a teacher, there's a lot of rules that govern what I can and can't do. As a person who lives with very strict parents, there's a lot of rules that govern what I can and can't do. When I have an open world where I can literally do anything, I don't want a lot of rules saying what I can and can't do.
I completely understand that.
And when I start to feel that yoke of people trying to redirect me and say, no, you can't do this, I kind of, my instinct is to fight back.
And that's why when I counter spells, I get attacked.
And that's why the deck that I had my biggest success with, not necessarily my biggest, but pretty close to my biggest success with in terms of I made top 8 of nationals with it. Ran a couple of the OG Beseiju.
Okay. I was actually just saying in a Hamhock stream earlier this week that I wish that they would have made that legal on Arena for Timeless.
I haven't played Arena since Kaldheim.
So I have never
I'm
stopped playing Arena,
mhm.
but I don't play it as heavily as I did back during Kaldheim.
I'm vaguely aware that Timeless exists. I don't know what it entails besides anything that's legal on Arena, I think.
That's pretty much it is. Every card that's legal on Arena except I think one or two. I know there's one or two banned. I don't remember what they are, and they do have restricted like demonic tutors. They will be played, but you can only play one of them.
Mhm.
And they are the paper printing of the cards. They aren't the rebalance for historic versions of the cards. Um,
Okay.
I've just been playing like Underworld Dream Effects paired with Peer into the Abyss are one of my
Mhm.
favorite finishers to try to pull off in a deck.
Oh,
So
I've used it before.
so I've been playing a mono black deck that it's concentrated mono black devotion plus, you know, control. You're like turn one dark ritual into necromentia to go and remove all the show and tells from the player's deck.
Mhm.
Yes, be show and tells legal as well.
Nice.
Way to go, Wizards. So stuff like that is what Timeless is. It's a sneak and show with people like me
Mhm.
pulling off Jake.
Sweet. I haven't played Arena because, as I was mentioning before we started, when I play competitively and I don't feel like I am with other people, it gets really lonely really quickly. And playing against Arena feels really weird, or playing in Arena feels really weird to me.
You see, and I just haven't had the joy of playing Arena as that I did when Rogues was no longer legal. When Zendikar Rising rotated out was the last time I played Arena every day. But that was because I
Hmm.
enjoyed that deck so much, and no other deck really made me enjoy it that way. And it's one of the few games I actually get actively angry playing when I'm not performing well because I know I should do better.
Hmm.
But
Oddly enough, the last time I played Arena was with a deck that feasted on rogues.
no, do
It was a red black reanimator deck, and it was like, okay, mill me, please.
it harder. So
Because they weren't really used that much, but Dracoseth and Massacre Worm were both in the format.
yep.
So I would get turn 5 Dracoseth or Massacre Worm every game. And rogues would just fold to either of them.
Yes, yes, they would. So where do we want to go with adding cards now?
Okay. So how many spells are we at so far?
We're at 20.
Okay. 20 including the commander, though.
Yep, it's 20 total right now.
Okay. I'm going to include the commander in a different category. So right now we're finishing up the mana portion. Um, the question is, how do we? Is there one more ramp type spell to put in that works well with this? There was another dinosaur. I don't remember what it did though. So I'm trying to remember.
Were you talking?
Uh,
Was it the Monarch dinosaur?
no. Um,
My magic dinosaur knowledge is limited because
yeah.
all the dinosaur typo decks were like Naya, and I didn't want anything to do with it.
Hmm.
So unless it's a Tali, we did already add
No.
Wayward. I did add Wayward Swordtooth already.
Yep. So this one, I think, it's Topiary Stomper, is it?
Topiary, where you could go and get a basic land.
Is that
Yeah,
it?
Stomper, not
Searches for a
Stomper.
basic land, and then, yeah, it requires you to have 7 or more basic lands to it,
Yep.
attack or block.
It's a plant. That's a dinosaur.
Yeah.
It has Vigi.
Mm-hmm. I think I like that one as another way to add to the board.
Okay.
Okay. So then that finishes up the. Yep. JJ was trying to follow. I remember that it had T. It started with a T. I was like, okay. Is it Terra? No. Although usually it would. No. Topiary. That was it. Okay. So we got the ramp package down. Now, next thing I would look for is landfall payouts.
Okay. Would you want to go and do the Nissa, Ascendant Animist, and Lotus Cobra?
Um, Nissa, yes. Lotus Cobra, shaky on that one, but yeah, I think that one could
The
work
only
too.
reason why, complete transparency, the only reason why, oh no, it's not Ascendant Animist, Resurgent Animist. Um, Ascendant's the Planeswalker. The only reason why I even mentioned Lotus Cobra is because it does what Nissa does, except Nissa also goes and lets you reveal the top card of your library until you reveal an elf or elemental, and you put it
Mm-hmm.
into your hand. Now,
Okay, so the Nissa I'm thinking of is, I think, Vastwood Seer, the flip one.
you do have two elves in the deck, so one other elf other than Nissa. Oh, yeah. You're thinking
So
Nat Bastards here?
yeah, I was thinking of a different Nissa. Sorry, because she, I believe, essentially has landfall. The land comes down if you have 7 flipper.
Yep, and when she flips, put land card.
The
So,
reason why I'm thinking no Lotus Cobra is because I don't want to put more mana in, because then we'll just be 20 is plenty. We're gonna get flooded. I'm looking for win cons that have
uh,
landfall.
Beldar Retreat.
Yep, Felidar Retreat works.
Thank you, JJ. The reason why,
Venture Zendikar, that's pretty standard.
yep, the reason why I said Lotus Cobra is because, yeah, it does just ramp you more, but it's just, you know, when that was standard legal, it was all over the place. Um,
If that's the case, we could put Lotus Cobra in for the Topiary Stomper then,
I think
because
Topiary
that does
Stomper.
ramp.
I
But
think
this, what's that?
I think Topiary Stomper leads more to your game plan than Lotus Cobra does, though.
Okay, that's fine.
Um,
Marry a Shepherd.
and the other one that I thought of, I don't know if you'd actually want to do this, because people love this card until they have to keep track of it. Scoot Swarm.
Yep.
Okay.
So Marry a Shepherd, Skewed Swarm. Um,
Let's see something. Okay. Let's look at Felder Retreat. How Felder Retreat's worded. Whenever a land actors. Let's see. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do an advanced search. Silly Jarvis.
Admonition Angel looks like an interesting one.
Oh, that could be fun.
Rampaging Baloth's another classic.
Yes. Aerial Extortionist. I forgot that this got printed. Um, you exile up to one target non-land permanent, and then your opponent can cast it from exile. And whenever another player casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, you get to draw a card.
That sounds.
So, oh wait a minute, never mind.
Oh, that's a removal spell.
Oh yeah,
Okay, yeah, I
it's
remember that
removal.
one.
I just saw that, but it's
It,
whenever
I
it
just had
enters
it
the
used a
battlefield or
couple
deals
days
combat
ago.
damage. Yeah, but I just saw that. I'm like, I forgot about that. But you said Rampaging Balos. Let me scroll down to that. We have a ton of land. I could have just looked at landfall. What am I doing?
Yeah, Oran Reef Hydra, and Maria Angel. I remember loving that card. Retreat to Ameria, just like the other retreat, works well.
I'm just, you're not really doing blossoming anything with that blossoming Taurus makes sense for. Should we treat him, Maria? I was looking to see if I'm missing anything else. Um, are you putting would evolution stage make sense? Did we have counters on there?
There are some cards that have that
Auto
do.
retreat
I
right
don't think
there.
there's a lot of them, but for the few that do, I could see it.
The llama land, the restless. We'll look at it. Um, how do you feel about Field of the Dead?
I'm fine with it.
Okay, just because it's a landfall deck.
We do. It does mean that we need to look into um non-basics.
Which I figured we're gonna have tons of non-basics. Um,
Yep. I don't usually start with looking at non-basics, but I could see them being important here.
green sleeves.
Increase.
You get 3/3 badger creature tokens,
Yep.
and its power and toughness become equal to the number of lands you control.
Canyon Jerboa, because we got to have that adorable little thing.
What is it?
Canyon Jerboa.
Canyon Jerboa. Okay.
It's adorable.
If that's not the right art, we can change it. What other land? You don't really care about gaining life.
I wonder how good Fearless Fledgling is. I think I would try that one. A
Um,
flyer that gets bigger with every land.
yeah, because it can get really large.
It's kind of funny that it also just doesn't naturally have flying.
No, it has to become fearless to get flying.
Yeah.
Let me just look in here. Oh, I forgot about Preston the Vanisher. So Preston the Vanisher is a commander that I have wanted to go. I wanted to go and make it just to be a jerk because
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go and run it with Hormus Spell, Snorn, and uh, Urborg. Well, because with Cormus Spell and Urborg, um, you ramp yourself because since you have a creature into the battlefield and you didn't cast it because you played your land, you get another
Mm-hmm.
copy of it.
Mm-hmm. I have a deck that messes around with land types. That's my Piana Nomad stack.
Um,
Because nomads wander around, and so that deck is about changing land types and then giving my creatures land walk of the corresponding type.
yep, that sounds like fun. Um, Darth mentioned the Llama Land, also known as Restless Prairie. I don't know if you want to have that land in there. Yeah, I don't know how you feel about creature lands.
I wasn't looking into lands yet, but in
One reason why I didn't
a
mention
deck
it is
like
because it showed
the
up in this search that I'm doing,
Mhm. um, yeah, why not?
and because Darth mentioned it.
Yeah,
Retreat to Ameria, retreat to Kazandu. Um,
Amaria, I like. Zandu, I have some reservations about. Uh,
it's
um,
1+1/+1 counter.
yeah, plus one counter per land, requiring you to have a creature out to do anything. I'm not a huge fan of, and then I don't like life gain, just
It,
in general.
and Life Cube doesn't make sense in this deck either.
There are a few different things if we wanted to that we could put in that would work with life gain, but uh, thing to note about me as a player, I hate life gain. I hate it with a burning, glowing passion. Uh, and there are some people who will make fun of me for that. But the reason why I dislike life gain so much and why it is so frustrating to me is because it ups. So first off, people don't seem to understand that it makes them a threat even if their board isn't threatening, because we want life totals to be roughly equal. To somebody who's just tuning in, life total usually indicates who's winning. Unless they look at the boards. Usually they'll look at life total first and think, oh, that person's probably ahead. So it when somebody plays like a Soul Warden and it puts them to a higher life total, they don't understand, okay, why are you attacking me down to the same life total as everybody else? Why are you focusing so many attacks on me? Because we want life totals equal. Uh,
It's an easy way to decide who to attack as well.
yeah. So people who play life gain tend to believe that when they are getting attacked down to an equal life total, that people are unfairly focusing on them.
Yeah.
Additionally, they tend to not run a lot of win conditions. There's not a ton of support for life gain. So what they're doing is prolonging the game without necessarily a plan for what they're going to do with it. Even saying something like, "Oh, it makes it so that I have more life for the crackback." Well, but you get frustrated when we crack back at you.
Yep. You play Tainted Remedy.
No, um, mostly because I would rather just get rid of the life gain decks in Rule Zero.
Oh, see, I like
I
using
don't
the card
need it.
themselves.
I don't need the card in my deck if people aren't playing the strategy.
Understand. A couple cards that I saw here. Um, Tiller Engine, Tireless Provisioner, and Tireless Tracker.
uh, Tracker, yes. Provisioner, no. Uh, and Tiller Engine, I can see it working because of the tapping and non-land permanent. The
Yes.
reason why no Provisioner is because, again, life gain, not all that helpful, and treasure is ramp, and we're already ramping.
I just love treasures.
Yep, but
Even
for
though I
me,
hate that
Provisioner
green
is
has it.
redundant.
I hate that green has it, and the fact that they made it tertiary in white and made it primary in green will always irritate me.
Yep.
Um,
Zendikar's Royal can go in. There was what was the name of that? There's a beast I think that we passed that also makes tokens that can go in. Kudzu, I like Kudzu. I've liked it since Ravnica.
Divine Lasher,
Yeah, it's a nice cheap creature that can get really nasty.
the beast that makes creatures.
Was it a beast? I think it was a beast.
Oh,
Um,
Sporebound makes
yeah, that was what I was
Sacrifice.
thinking. Uh, yeah, it's fungus. Sorry.
And there is a Seed the Land. Oh, that gives them snakes too. I don't know if you want your opponents to have snakes.
um, yeah, why not? I like it. And it's also one that's fun to put in because we're not on a budget. I would put Seed the Land in.
Okay.
The only thing that I'm a little hesitant about with Seed the Land is because, as I've found out with a different deck, when you give opponents creatures, if they don't have infinite tokens, shout out to infinite tokens, by the way,
Free
but if
product.
they don't have infinite tokens, then it can be really difficult to evaluate board states.
Yes.
So I actually took apart my Gore Muldrak deck because there was a player who kept track of them with very small dice, and I didn't know how much power he had left. So I took out 2 players, and then that player took me out because I didn't know how much power they had on board.
So infinite tokens is probably the most impactful product I have ever bought for Magic the Gathering, because I was the person that I hate tokens. I never used tokens at all before infinite tokens.
Mhm.
I would be the person that I would just use dice. And her going and embedding that and making it that I just have the dry erase and I don't have to carry around random tokens was a game changer for me.
Nice.
InfiniteTokens.com. Go and buy them now.
Yep.
Do
Yeah,
it.
I love Infinite Tokens. Make sure that you're getting the OGs too. Also, Infinite Tokens does have an official product that's on Card Kingdom, and Card
Nice.
Kingdom does do international shipping. So
I didn't
even if
realize.
you are not in America, you can still get Infinite Tokens.
I didn't realize they were on Card Kingdom.
Uh, so I figured that out recently, and order them for somebody who's in the UK.
Sweet.
Because when I say I value something and I say that it's worth having, I will make sure you have it, especially if I want to play with you at some point.
Oh yeah, then I
So,
even made sure this is actually my second set of Infinite Tokens. He's my
mhm.
first set that I had. I accidentally spilled a drink on. I'm like, I guess I'm replacing these.
Yeah, yeah, they
Because
can get stained a little bit, but one of the things to note if you do wind up staining them is if you like put Purell on them or another antiseptic, you can wipe off the stain.
okay, yeah, for me it's the because you can't go and make the entire thing waterproof. The side of them is open, but if you spill on it, it will go and like it will cause it to ripple.
Hmm. Yeah, that happens sometimes, especially if you have a laminated product.
Yep.
Mhm.
So right now we've gotten a lot of your landfall stuff in here. We've gotten your ramp in here. This is a good time to. Is this how you typically build a deck? Is you start with a ramp package, or do you start with the thing that your commander wants to do first? How do you go about
Um,
building your decks?
so the way that I go about building decks usually, I mean, it depends on the deck. I start with synergy though. And so with this one, the ramp package is the primary source of synergy. Um, because the the so what Maya does is that she allows you to unite your ramp and win con packages. So the way that you ramp is also the way that you win. The way that you ramp is by making lands. The way that you win is by making tokens, and the lands make tokens.
Okay.
So I start out by looking at how did the pieces fit together. uh, and that winds up being key to me. So where those things start to fit together and work into other portions of the deck is okay. This is a go wide deck clearly because we're making lands and we're making tokens. When we make tokens, that goes wide, and a lot of these tokens aren't necessarily terribly huge. So we want some cards that draw a card for each creature we control.
Okay. What card would you want?
So there's a few of them that do that. Um, so there's Collective Unconscious.
And just because Darth mentioned these, I just saw them now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Oversoul of Dusk and Wiltleaf Leech.
Okay, Oversoul, I think is a large creature, which is good, but I don't think it works with what we're doing. Wetleaf Liege, I do like Lords, but uh, I don't think we're quite to that yet because we've got a bunch of win cons that aren't Lords.
Oh, so
We're not really going far into the Lord plan.
I know why Darth recommended Wiltleaf Leech. Darth,
Discard?
no, Darth loves these cards. The hybrid mana ward cards, Darth loves them.
Ah.
So it doesn't surprise. Once I saw what the card was, it didn't surprise me anymore.
Okay. So collective unconscious draws a card for each creature you control.
Yep.
Dramatic revelation. Slate of ancestry is an interesting one. It is a little expensive, but it is a cool one if you can get it to work.
Okay. If you played like um Remnant Excavator type effects to play your lands from your graveyard, that would actually work out really well with Slate of Ancestry.
So you have to think about how well do those
But
work with the rest of the stuff that we're
but,
doing.
but unless you're planning on playing fetch lands, the playing lands from your graveyard isn't really that big of a deal.
Yeah. Again, we have our ramp package set. So going and finding other cards that manipulate lands in different places isn't
Yeah.
necessarily helpful. Um, Although I could see putting in fetches, and as much as I hate them, even off-color fetches.
Yeah, but that's the reason why I even bring that up because, and I wouldn't even mention that until you mentioned Slate of Ancestry because this is a card that I didn't know about, but that's also because I don't play go wide decks on a regular
Mhm.
basis.
I don't play a lot of them, even when I do play. So I have my theme deck throwdown coming up in a couple weeks. But even when I do play theme decks, I still. I mean, I do have like my scout deck has 40 creatures in it, but even then, it's not really that go wide necessarily. I'm not a fan of clogged boards. I do have a heroic deck with a Rajnacht, Heir of Rogark, which makes a bunch of Cobalt tokens. But even then, I'm looking to polymorph the tokens.
Okay.
So I still don't like go wide cluttered board strategies. Either I want my creatures to be bigger than yours, or I want my creatures to be able to hit you anyways.
Well, this is why I love combos because I just had a game on Monday that took 3 hours, and it wasn't because there was a lot of board wipes. We had two early board wipes that happened back to back. One was a creature board wipe, the other one was artifact and enchantment board wipe. But everything got so clogged and no one could break the parity. So no one wanted to attack. And when I had something to break the parity, it got removed.
Yeah, that's where if I got to that point and it's getting to be around 3 hours, I will just swing out at somebody. Even if it's not good, even if it means I'm clearly going to get destroyed on the crackback, I am not just going to sit there for a bunch of hours doing nothing.
I did the most amount of combat damage that game. Because there was a time that I had trample and no one else had trample.
Hmm.
But they removed my trample. Jerks.
And I would just keep swinging at someone until either they're dead or I'm dead. I am not going to sit here. I am not going to leave up blockers and say, don't attack me. Just, game's got to end sometime.
Oh yeah. I ended up winning with Anissa. Felt dirty.
Yeah.
Uh so we do have those card draws added.
This deck doesn't need a ton of card draw because there's a lot of redundancy,
Yeah.
but it does need some. How many cards are we up to?
We're at 46.
So we need a little bit more card. Yeah, probably a little bit more just to make sure that it doesn't get like mired in the wrong cards.
How do you feel about the Takasha's Welcome and Welcoming Vampire style card draw?
Um, yeah, we are making small creatures. Uh, look for ones that trigger. Whenever. I would look for Spygon Bishop trigger on cast or on enter the battlefield.
Bygone Bishop. I have to use that. Look. Whenever you cast this creature spell with mana value 3 or
Okay.
less.
Yep, that does not work then. Okay.
And the only reason why I mentioned those two is a lot of the creature ETB effects have power associated with it, and a lot of the creatures you're making have power less than 3, not 3 or more.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't. Most of those don't trigger on power 1 or 2.
Right, so I'm looking for so I'm looking for cards that will continue to trigger. I hate this card, but it probably goes in Aura Shards.
Okay.
I hate that card so much.
There is a new card that could probably trigger quite a bit. It doesn't lean into the game plan of the deck at all, but I don't know how you feel about doing it. Trouble in Pairs.
I don't know much about. I don't remember a lot about Trouble in
So
Pairs.
Trouble in Pairs is a card that I did this when I didn't mean to. It shuts off extra turns, but whenever an opponent attacks you with 2 or more creatures, draws their second card each turn, or casts their second spell each turn, you draw a card.
Yeah, it probably goes in.
And it's 4 mana.
Mm-hmm. That is another one where probably goes in whether I like it or not.
Well, yeah,
It just does the job.
it is Smothering Tithe levels of auto include, in my
Yeah.
opinion, in decks. Unless it's one of those cards that, unless you are purposely avoiding playing that card, it makes your deck better.
Mm-hmm. So Takazu's Welcome only triggers once a turn, and I'm not a big fan of that.
Welcoming Vampire is the same thing.
Yeah, that would be the issue I have with those. Let's see if there's something that looks a little bit better. I know we don't need life gain, but Gallic Readers is kind of nasty.
It is. And it acts as a ramp and a big creature.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you never told me. Is this the correct art for Kenny and Jerboa, or is it the normal art?
Oh, I gotta make sure I'm looking then. I think it's the normal art, but I mean either one's adorable though. Hello, Swan Song.
Yo, Swan Song, thank you so much for the raid. How are you doing, friend?
Dun 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 dun. Dun.
We are building a Selesnya Bretagard Protector deck, going wide with Landfall. So, with the Raiders coming in, this is a great time to ask a question that isn't Magic related. What is something else about you, another passion you have that is not Magic or TCG related?
Well, I have a number of different things that I enjoy doing, but one of the interesting ones is that so the coach in Coach J-Ro comes from the fact that I used to be a football coach. I was a state championship winning football coach.
Nice. High school
A
level?
tribute to the World Tree.
Awesome. Hey, being a football coach is not easy work. Of course, teaching isn't easy work either.
Mm.
Tribute to the World Tree is a so where Tribute to the World Tree would be good in this deck is it does act as good card draw for your larger creatures, but it also buffs up your smaller creatures.
Mhm. And it works with, well, we have a little bit of proliferate in there.
Yep. What does your curving look
So we
like?
could always put a little bit more in there
Oh,
too.
look at that nice curve.
Hmm.
Isn't it great when a plan just comes together?
Oh yeah, I love those curves, baby.
So
Yeah, JJ, very nice.
you're at the exact halfway point on the deck build.
I'll probably be on that because there's basic lands.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm figuring most decks have a minimum of 35 lands that they want to play, some more, some less. So I
Yeah,
figure
I
you're
usually
really
run 40.
so if you're running 40, you had 38
Yeah.
because we do have two lands here. You really only have
Hmm.
12 other cards to add at that point.
Yeah. So a couple more cards that would be considered draw, I think.
JJ, we do have Shamanic Revelation in the deck.
Hmm.
So something I want to bring up. I know
Hmm.
we don't have the most amount of card draw. I do actually have card draw now, which is great, but not the most amount. But something that we are missing, we don't have any removal in the deck other than Aura Shards.
Yeah, that will likely be where those last 10 cards come in. um, Also, I'm not a huge fan of packing a lot of removal, especially in a deck like this. If anything, I would use what's called, or what I call anti-removal. Uh, so what I mean by that is like anti-board wipe cards.
So you're looking at more like the heroic interventions of the world.
Yeah, Rapid Vigor, Heroic Intervention, those types of cards, so that we can continue being aggressive because this is a more aggressive deck. Kind of an aggro combo deck.
So you said what? You said Rapid Vigor?
Yes, Rapid Vigor should be regenerate each creature you control, or is it just green creatures?
Rampant?
Wrap in.
Wrap in. Wrap in. Well, how come when I was typing in Vigor it didn't show up? Yep, it regenerates each creature you control. JJ
So,
also mentioned Watley Radiant Champion.
so Watley is one that I was thinking of possibly because we go wide. So yeah, we can put in Watley and then Cream of the Crop. That should finish up the card draw.
That could go and be dumb.
Cream of the Crop is nasty. Even though the creatures aren't that big, but yeah. Okay. Yeah, now we can start to put in. I still think we should go more anti-removal. So, what was the one creatures get +1/+0 and indestructible?
Did you want the free spell?
That one can go in. Yeah, it's a cheaper. It's money-wise cheaper.
Um,
But yeah, that one can go in.
is it Breakable Formation or Unbreakable Formation? unbreakable formation.
Hold on.
Where it's an instant, but if you cast it during your main phase, it get they get a buff. You have +1/+1 in vigilance.
Yeah, unbreakable formation can go in.
And JJ is mentioning clever concealment and Teferi's protection.
Yeah, those can go in. Basically, just all kinds of ways to protect our board, because instead of removing opponent stuff, we want to be just continuing to attack. Make a stand is what I was thinking of.
Okay. How do you feel about the fog meta?
The what now?
The fog meta,
What do you mean by the fog meta?
where every deck needs a fog.
Oh, okay. I think some decks do and some decks don't. In this case, we just need to protect our own board, and we're probably attacking for more than anyone else is going to do to us.
Okay. So the fog meta is not real. Got it.
No, I guess.
With how wide that this deck has the ability to go, do you like Chroma's Will?
Yeah, easily. That is another one of those mass indestructible, if nothing else.
Yep.
The other Rhino too, that can sack itself to give Dauntless Escort.
Okay.
I think sacks to give your board indestructible.
That's exactly what it does. Well, your creatures, yes.
Yeah. So the idea being that it winds up being really difficult to actually take you out. You do still, I don't know. I mean, farewell still is it's tough outside of phasing yourself out with
Yes.
the various protection.
Yes,
Which I mean, that's just something you got to hedge a bet against, I guess. Also, if somebody's running farewell, you either build your board back up relatively quickly because we have so many cards committed to mana, or you just say, I guess you're adding that much time to a game.
I'm pro farewell. There is another creature that you could flash it in, and you could phase out any number of target creatures that you control, I believe. I just don't remember the name of it, even though I played it in a deck. So do you know what I'm doing? I'm going to look to see if I can find it.
There is out of time, but I don't think that's what you're talking about.
No.
Clever concealment.
I do
Any
have,
number of non-permanents you control phase out, which I think was already brought up.
yeah, I already have Clever Concealment in there. Ah, thank you, JJ.
Guardian of Faith?
Yes.
Okay. So scrolling down the list, and yeah, it was Guardian of Faith. Okay.
I was in the process of going through my mono white deck because that's where it is.
Nice. I used to have a mono white flash deck that I called Hixus Trixus. So
Yeah,
where are we at on spells?
we are at 62 cards, so we're at 60 spells. We have 2 lands.
Sweet. Perfect.
Yeah, Guardian of Faith is any number of other target creatures you control phase out.
Yep.
And it has flash and vigilance.
Yep. So perfect. Now we can go over to lands.
Before we start looking at the lands, it's time for my favorite question of the interview process.
Sure. Sweet.
if you could ban any card in Magic, making it that it be banned in every format it is currently legal in, what card would you ban?
So here's the thing. I am, as somebody who doesn't like black or white, I'm very much against banning. I would rather they're not. I'm of the position that casual formats should not have ban lists at all.
Oh, but see, this is the thing. There's two things. One, there's nothing that I see that needs to be banned in any thing right now. There are cards that I don't really like. Like I do not like fetch lands in general.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm talking about bans, I'm not saying that it just gets banned in the casual format. I'm saying that if you would ban it and it gets banned in Commander, it's also banned in Modern, Legacy, Vintage, or wherever it's currently legal. It gets banned in every format.
So, can we go back and revisionist history or no?
Well, you go back in revisionist history, kind of, but then it'd still be banned now.
I wish that Counterspell had never been printed. I wish that it was remand instead.
You hurt me.
So every instance of counter target spell, I wish was remand instead.
Is this just because of your love for unsummoning?
No, it's because I think that is flavorfully more what is actually happening, and I dislike the basically the hate that blue gets, and I don't really like people playing counter spells, uh, even though I love blue. I I would far prefer it if it goes back to your hand and uh, you have to cast it sometime later.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, especially with the hate that blue gets. That's why I always do my best to whenever I get someone that's like, especially a new player that's like, I just hate counterspell so much, they're so bad. I do my best to reframe it to remind them that counterspells are blues removal. They don't have much other removal other than counterspells. They have some, but they don't have a ton.
They have tucking. They have now removing and replacing with a different
But
card type.
they don't
They
have
have bouncing.
bouncing isn't removal.
Yes, it is.
No, when I'm talking about removal, I'm talking about like actual hard removal from the game
I
that it
am.
leaves the battlefield and goes to the graveyard, or leaves the battlefield
I
and goes
am
to exile.
100% serious as somebody who is known for playing unsummons. That card is either still a threat and was always going to be a threat, or it's done.
But bouncing's a tempo play, where counter spells aren't a tempo play.
Okay, you have an 8 mana spell that you spent your entire turn to cast, and it gets sent back to your hand. That's
But
a time walk.
like I said, it's a tempo play. It's a tempo
It's
play.
not just a tempo play. You're gonna question whether you can ever wind up casting that again.
And and a lot of people will just go and cast that same spell again and be like, we'll see if it gets unsummoned again. And especially in today's worlds where everything has to have an ETB and be broken, unsummons aren't enough anymore. Stupid
I
Atraxa.
am going to vehemently
Stupid
deny that.
stupid Atraxa, stupid Atali.
I don't care.
ETBs. They hurt so much now.
As
That's my only thing is like,
someone who plays unsummons as often as I do, that it's part of my name that I'm known for. They are much harder removal than you would think they are.
for me, I just view those as tempo plays, not removal. Because a lot of times I see players that would go and still just go and cast that spell again and not care if it gets returned back to the hand. Sure, you made it that you put them behind a turn, but they have access to it without spending another card. Where I'd rather them have to spend another card to go and get that spell back.
They have access to it by basically skipping their turn.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. Tempo play. You set them back a
That's
turn.
not a tempo play.
You set them back a turn, but they're still mostly going to cast it. They still have access to it without having to do anything else except take a turn off. Where
Setting them back a turn in a game that will rarely go beyond 10 turns is a huge play. And if you're going to say that the value of cards has gone up, being able to 1 for 8 somebody is huge.
but what's the ETB on that 8?
Nothing. It didn't actually do anything. Even something like Atraxa, you got a card in your hand
Well,
that you
that's
can't
what I
use
said.
this turn because you tapped out.
The remand is, like I said, the remand still I'm still not a fan of it because they still do have that next turn. But a lot of people, you know, even a casual commander are casting that on turn 4 now. It's not turn 8 that you have to worry about, so they're just casting on turn 5 instead.
And so can I?
No, that's the only reason why I prefer hard counters. I know where you're coming from with the remand and sitting it back, and flavorfully it might make more sense. I just don't think blue has removal otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, I keep track of these things. I record the games that I play on my stream, and I will say roughly 65 to 75% that spell either doesn't come back down or is not a threat when it does.
See, just the fact that it's still there. I'm I'm a hard resource guy that I want to strip as much resource as possible. So if you counter the spell now instead of a remand, not only do you take that turn away from them, you make them work to get that spell back. Whereas with the remand, they still have that spell back, and they took the turn off. I like taking away as much as possible, but that's because I'm a taker, not a giver. At least in the game.
Mm-hmm. I will say I usually use unsummons with wheels or unsummons with burn effects, but no, the window usually isn't there for the thing to be as impactful as they wanted it to be.
Wheels. Remember when they talked about banning wheels in Commander?
I don't think I've ever heard that.
What
I've
what
heard some people get frustrated with them, but never actually heard somebody talk about banning them.
So this was 2, maybe 3 years ago. There was a new card printed that it might have been Shieldred when Shieldred was printed. I don't remember what it was, and it was never said in a serious way that we are talking about this at the RC level. But Sheldon made the comment that wheels are could be a problem in casual commander. So other people took that and ran with it, saying, "Oh, Sheldon wants to ban wheels," and people were like, "Oh yeah, we should ban wheels in commander." Even though Sheldon never said ban them, just said they could be a problem in casual commander.
I've
But
never heard that.
other people took it as banning.
Okay, I never heard that. Um, but if you want me to switch the answer and talk about something like right
Oh,
now that I would ban,
oh no, I'm fine with getting rid of counter spells and remand. That's a really good answer.
mhm, I wish that blue had been shifted in such a way so that its removal was tempo based rather than if you're going to say it's tempo based, say all of the removal is tempo based.
It, it's a really good answer. It might hurt me deep in my soul, but it is a
Mhm.
fantastic answer. And it's very much on flavor for what you are, like how you described what you want in the game and how you
Mhm.
want to play the game. It makes a ton of sense. It just cuts deep.
Well, removal is a very wide net. Even tapping things down is really it's removal because they don't have access to it. Fogs are removal because their thing isn't able to do whatever it was trying to do, and it isn't able to block, and it's really not doing anything for them anymore. And on my Red Eye deck guide, I have 3 different categories for targeted removal, and even then, there's exile, destruction, and bounce. Then there's uh, burn, counter, protection. Uh, then there's overcosted. So there's politics, universal, repeatable, advantageous, all kinds of removal.
Politics. Well, I'll need to go and get more into that one. But while we're doing that, let's go and name lands. I love politics, and I know they're
Yeah.
super effective on the game.
Yep. So, when I talk about politics in terms of removal, that's like the generous gift kind that gives somebody back something, or path to exile or something. Let's see. Okay. So if we're going into the lands for the deck, probably just well, we don't really have ways to get things out of the graveyard. Otherwise, I usually like to start with cycling lands.
Okay.
But I don't think we start with cycling lands this time because we want our lands to be out.
Now, there is one
Um,
thing I want to mention that JJ brought up earlier. I wanted to wait until we brought it into the lands. He mentioned with
mhm.
Field of the Dead that he didn't know how good it would be because we're playing a lot of stuff like land tax that cares about basic lands. One thing I wanted to mention, JJ, even with that happening in this style of deck, you're probably still playing. I don't know, Coach, if you,
20 most likely.
you're still probably playing at least 20. That's what I was going to say. So
Yeah.
it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. So Selesnya Sanctuary, I think would be the first one. Ghost Town, I think, is the second. If it is what I remember, it is.
Uh, the colorless, uh, well, for 0, you can bounce it to your hand during another player's turn.
Yep.
Okay.
Because that works with the burgeoning effects and Field of the Dead and Landfall and such.
Guildless Commons is the
uh,
colorless bounce land.
yeah, as long as it bounces stuff. Because, of course, you know why I got to do that, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I understand. And this style of deck is the only style of deck that I am okay with bounce lands in. Because it makes sense for the style of deck to have them for the exact reasons that you mentioned.
uh, Colony Garden, I like. I remember liking that one a lot. I used to run it with, in again, a polymorph deck.
Yep. I was like, you said Colony Garden, and I shivered a little bit because of how many people still want Transmogrify to work.
Mhm. Lands that enter the back. I used to like this one. I'm not sure it works as well here. Sedgery Step I used to like. Especially with
Because
ways to reuse the enter the battlefield effects.
that actually just made me think of something. We didn't
Hmm.
mention any of the MDFCs from Zendikar Rising. Are there any of the MDFCs from Zendikar Rising that you want to put in the deck?
Not a big fan of MDFCs, but I could put them with the lands, I guess. Um, Colony Mammoth, I think,
Yeah,
is
then
one of them.
that has landfall as well.
Yeah,
Kazandu Mammoth.
Kazandu, sorry.
No, I
Something
just
with K.
yeah. As soon as I started typing, I'm like, no, that doesn't sound right. And I'm like, Kazandu. The popular green one is Bretagard Recovery.
Yeah, that one can go into.
Green and white, their options are not as nice as some of the other colors. But
Temple and Lush Portico can go in.
the Temple of Plenty
Temple Plenty and
or
Lush
Temple Garden.
Portico.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, like Temple of Plenty or Temple Garden.
Surveil Land and Scryland.
Well, no, it just be the Temple Garden is the Shockland, right?
Yep. Yeah, we can probably put Temple Garden in too. I was just thinking of the other one or the other two because they have end of battlefield effects.
Oh yeah.
Technically, Temple Garden does too, but it's not a good one.
No, it's not one that you want to pay twice.
No.
These lands, so good. Do you want Beseju, who endures, and Iganjo?
Because you can bounce them, you can put them out as lands and then bounce them and use them as some use them for channel. Yeah, sure.
Beseju is still overrated in my opinion, but we could play it.
Blossoming Sands, I think is the name.
That's one
The
of them.
life gain land. It's an unusual one, but being able to repeatedly gain a life, I don't necessarily want to use spells on that, but I could see myself using a land slot on it. I could put Bountiful Promenade in there. Just have to be careful not to bounce it when you're down to 101 or 1-on-1.
Um, for sure. The other one that I just thought of was Overgrown Farmland.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Innistrad one. That if you have two or more other lands, it comes in untapped.
That one can work. Diamond City could work. Just came out in Fallout. I don't know if it existed before. I don't think it did.
Uh, it did not. No, it's new to Fallout.
Sweet. That's a cool one that I never would have played with because I don't pay attention to Fallout. But enters with a shield counter on it, and then you can tap it, move the shield counter. You're going to make a lot of tokens, so that's not hard to do. And we can always reset it with the shield counter.
When you were saying Diamond City, I'm like, where's Diamond City from? And then you said it. I'm like, oh, I didn't. There's only one card that I care about from Fallout, and I don't know when I'm buying it. So I don't know them that well.
Mm-hmm. Now we could do some fun and games with Vesuva.
Okay.
That would be silly, especially if you wind up against somebody who is running Urborg and and the stuff that works with Urborg, and then you
The Cobalt
copy
Coffers.
their
Yeah.
coffers. Yeah, yeah. Suddenly we're doing it.
Oh, it's our deck now.
Yep.
So just to let you know, you are leaning right now 60-40 on symbols, 60% green, 40% white.
Mm-hmm.
Just if that affects how you build your mana base at all.
Usually, I start with them equal and then shift it based on feel.
Well, yeah, and with this deck, with it only being 60-40, you can pretty much build it as an equal deck.
Mm-hmm. Although the ratio is not that difficult to figure out.
Not at all.
How many lands are we up to?
We are at 17 lands, unless you include the MDSCs, we're at 19. So right now, if you'd add 10 plains and 10 forests, you'd have room
Mm-hmm.
for one more card.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
Is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
And it always throws me off. For basic lands, plains is the only one that's plural by nature. Every other one is singular, so I always have to stop myself from putting the S in for forests.
Mm-hmm. Um. Well, yeah, it's a collective noun,
Yes.
as it's just a little strange, but yeah.
And what is that last land you want to put in there?
Looking to see if anything speaks, if anything really comes out. Otherwise, it could probably just no. Those sacrifice themselves. That doesn't work. I was
Isn't
thinking it could be a hideout, but no, I don't like that.
Bretagard Stronghold is one I'm thinking of, if I'm thinking right. I don't think it's good enough. The only reason why I was thinking of this card is because it's originally from Kaldheim.
Mm-hmm.
It enters tapped. It only taps for a green, and it has an activated ability to sacrifice it, but you only get to put a +1/+1 counter on 2 target creatures, and they gain vigilance and lifelink. So I don't think it's actually good enough.
Yeah. Oh, we could just put what's the one that puts layers of counters out. We might as well just put that out, right? For
Oh,
going wide. The one from Innistrad,
it puts counters out?
Gavany Township.
Gavany Township, okay.
I was looking at end of the battlefield effects, but Gavany Township is just Gavany Township.
I was thinking of yeah, because that puts on each one you control. When you said puts counters on, I went to Oran Reef, and I'm like, that's not it. But yeah, Gavany Township, that works out well. That's much better than Bretagard would have been.
Mm-hmm.
So you're at exactly 100 cards right now.
Sweet.
Are there any changes you'd want to make?
Uh, Probably not without shuffling it up and seeing how it plays.
Okay. Now, there was one question that I didn't ask you that I like to ask everyone as well. And this one, I can't believe I forgot to ask you until now, because what you do as well when it comes to typal and creature types makes complete sense for this question. What is your favorite creature type?
Spell Shaper
Spell Shaper?
in a heartbeat.
Okay.
Uh, so what I like about Spell Shapers is that so what a Spell Shaper is, just if that's okay for me to explain.
Go ahead.
Uh, you discard a card, pay a cost, and you get an effect. Or sometimes 2 cards. So I think the legends are 2 cards. So you discard some number of cards, pay a cost, and you get an effect. Uh, what I love about them is that they are, for the most part, designed around iconic spells. So they make it so that any card that you draw turns into whatever spell they are able to cast. So you don't have a dead draw anymore. Like you draw a swamp, there's a guy that can turn it into a dark ritual.
Yes.
So I I love those. I wish that there were more of them. I think it's cool they can turn any spell into anything. Uh, that's a cool bit of meta magic there. It's a cool bit of design space as well. That you're attaching it onto a creature and trying to figure out, okay, how much can it cost for it to be worth a card in your hand? Just turning whatever card you want into that. There's ways to build around them as well, but like when I got the opportunity using a card maker software to try to make my own draftable set, my first thought was, okay, let's try to make a set where the only creatures there are spell shapers. So every card that you draw becomes a huge decision tree. Do I want this card to be a Ponder? Do I want this card to be a Dark Ritual? Do I want this card to be a Lightning Bolt?
Oh, I needed to go to advanced. I think if I needed this though. Nope. Don't know the syntax one up.
I don't
Just
think it's in the name of the card. It's just the type of
yeah, it's
creature.
type line. Oh, it's you have to spell out type, not just T. So yeah, just as for instance, Archmage, you discard a card and you get a shock.
Yep. Although it does cost 3, and it costs 3 to put the thing out, and it doesn't have haste unless you give it haste.
Yeah, but there's still really cool effects. And here's the
Yeah.
Dark Ritual.
Mm-hmm.
So just to give an idea for everyone on what it actually is.
Yep. Dreamscape Artist, I think people are starting to play more often.
Well,
Because it's a little bit of blue ramp.
And it also just got reprinted
Mm-hmm.
in Times Square Remastered, so it got like front of mind. I say just, but that was over a year ago now.
Yeah.
And then look at Divining Witch. You know, get that thing out.
Divining Witch is an interesting one. Instigator's a fun one.
Yeah, so oh, goads, that's fun. Well,
Yeah.
not quite goad because they can still attack you, but
Yeah.
I clicked on the wrong thing. Transform right here. Chiron Flamewright is a spell shaper, the backside of Invasion of Mercadia.
Nice.
So yeah, just for everyone, that's what spell shapers do. And there are.
Yep.
This is one that I've actually seen quite a bit lately, which I'm assuming,
Waterfront Bouncer. Yep.
is your favorite.
I do enjoy it, but Instigator is probably my favorite. I used to have a red-white Spell Shapers deck. I actually ran it last year at the Theme Deck Throwdown. That deck, though, has since become a 60-card deck.
Okay, yeah, and there's 56 spell shapers and a battle, which transforms into a spell shaper. So 57.
Mm-hmm. It's tricky though because they're divided roughly evenly among the colors, so it's hard to get a lot of them. And there's only a couple of them that actually win the game or are proactive.
Yep.
But the cool thing is that they work well with a lot of what white does with regards to like the Spell Shaper deck could do like a turn 1 land tax and then start shaping those extra lands.
That's silly,
Mm-hmm.
but fun.
Yeah.
So right now we just have the name of the deck as Coach J-Ro. What do you want to call the deck?
Uh, Probably Soramaja, Sora Maya, my sister.
Soramaja.
Maja, yep.
Yep. Two separate words or one word?
2 words.
Okay.
Yeah, Sora is Maya, and then Maya is sister.
Perfect. There we go. So, this deck looks like it would be a lot of fun to play if you wanted to play a landfall deck and go wide and hit people in the face hard with a bunch of small things.
Mm-hmm.
But before we go, remind everyone about where they could find you and what you do in the Magic community.
People can find me most social media as Unsummoned Skull. I also have the Quote of Arms podcast, and I have a blog called the Red Eye Deck Guide. I run the Skull Symbol Discord server. I'm going to be running the a theme deck throwdown, second annual theme deck throwdown in a couple weeks. And I write for EDHREC and Commander's Herald.
Awesome. And for me, everyone, I do want to appreciate for showing up. This video is going up if you're in chat now. Will be up on Sunday at 5 on my YouTube. And if you're in YouTube and you're watching this, you can find me streaming these live Wednesday at 9 o'clock on Twitch. And you can find all the links for the deck and where else to find us in the description of the video. But until next week, bye.